Aloha class, some of us were struggling a little bit with long versus synthetic division. So here's a quick little brief tutorial to make sure you got it down pat. All right, let's go ahead and look at this bad boy. We are going to do number 12 first. What the heck is long versus synthetic division? So number 12 says 2x cubed minus 3x squared minus 18x minus 8. And we are going to divide that boy by x minus 4. So remember, we are going to do, let's check a little long division out. Okay, long division, right? Whatever we're dividing by goes out here. This dude right here, right, that comes first goes underneath the roof. And remember, long division, it is a lot of side work. It is cycles, right, class? Side work, okay? Cycle 1, you divide the first thing underneath the roof. What's the first thing underneath the roof? That's a 2x cubed. And you divide that by the first thing outside, right? There's the first thing underneath. That's the first thing on the outside. That's all you got to do. Okay, if I divide that, we get a little 2x squared, right? That is your first answer. Line that guy above what it matches up with. All right, and then after we do that, remember, we multiply. When we multiply our first answer, 2x squared by x and by 4, and we put it down here. So 2x squared times x would be 2x to the third. If the first guys match up, that means we did it right. 2x squared times negative 4 would be negative 8x squared. After you do that, we subtract. The most important part of long division is you subtract. I teach all of my students that subtracting is changing the signs. And when you change the signs, it's important to circle that you change the signs so you remember that you change the signs, right? A negative becomes a positive and a positive becomes a negative, right? So, all right? And then we combine terms. Gone, which means I did it right. Okay, and negative 3 and a plus 8 gives me a 5x squared. And then we drop these two bad boys. Okay, and whenever I drop guys, okay, there was nothing to combine them with, and I did all that subtraction, that means I got to start over. I'm on cycle 2, ni, dos, okay? And so let's start cycle 2. I'm going to do a little organization here. Here's my cycle 2. In my cycle 2, I guess what? I do the same thing, but now I have a new thing underneath the roof. And I still divide that by that guy. That guy is always going to be the same out there. And right, I have to keep on dividing as long as this degree is bigger than or equal to this degree. Okay, so I got to keep on going. 5x. There's my second answer. Answers always go above the roof, right? And then what do I do then? I multiply. But I only multiply with my new answer. So I do 5x times x. 5x times x is 5x squared. Oh, sweet, they matched up. I'm doing it right. Okay, 5x times negative 4, that's negative 20x. Right, after I multiply 2 times, I should have 2 things, which means I draw my line. And then what's the most important step? Change the signs. Right, and why do I change the signs? Because I am subtracting. And when you change the signs, make sure you circle it. It reminds that you actually change the signs. And then we combine. Those guys went away, so I'm doing it right. Sweet, sweet. Okay, a negative 18 and a positive 20 give me a 2x. And then I bring down anything that has nothing else to combine with. Do I need to keep on going? For sure. Nice. Right, and why do I need to keep on going? Well, I start over and I have a 2x. That's the first guy underneath. That's a brand new, right? And I divide it. Now, why am I keeping on going? Because that's a 1 and a 1. And as long as this exponent is bigger than or equal to this one, I got to keep on going. I get 2 as my answer. I've got 3 answers so far. This was fun, right? And then what do I do after that? I multiply. I take that new answer of 2 and I multiply it by x. I get a 2x. I multiply it by a 4. I get a negative 8. And then what do I do after that? The most important step, I change signs. If it's a negative, make it a positive. If it's a positive, make it a negative, right? You could do a dance with that bad boy, okay? So whenever I do that, I should change signs to remind myself that I did change it. Right? And oh, sweet. I get a 0 and a 0. If I get a 0 over 0, it means I have a remainder of 0. So now I need to write my final answer. My final answer for this when I divide is 2x squared plus 5x plus 2. Now, if I did have a remainder, I don't this time. But if I did, you always write your remainder over what you were dividing by. And that is the official technical way that you should write it. Since it was 0, I didn't really need that. But if it was like a 4 or a 2 or a 5, then I would need that. All right? Let's get rid of this. That was called long division. And you just get one example of each, you guys. All right? Now we are going to do the same exact problem, but we're going to do synthetic division. Okay, class? All right, let's do synthetic division, and we're going to do it for the same exact problem we just did. So I'm going to write this out again so we can see the difference. And guess what? If I do it with synthetic division, then that means I should get the same answer. But before we actually do synthetic division, long division is always way better. It takes longer, long division, but long division is always better. Do you know why? Because long division always works. Synthetic division only works in certain scenarios. Synthetic division only works when you are dividing by something that is linear. You have to be dividing by something that is linear. All right, the pen ran out, so guess what? Booyah, I have to use a new screen. I'm not going to rewrite the problem, though, okay? But when you do synthetic division, I have it right here. You guys have it in your notes, okay? It's that guy right there. When you do synthetic division, you make a little right angle like this. And whatever makes that linear part, what we're dividing by 0, you put right there. So if I put a 4 in for x, that would make that 0, right? Which means it's a factor. It means it actually doesn't mean it's a factor. It would mean it's a factor if I get a remainder of 0, okay? But we're just doing synthetic division. That's kind of in the next video, okay? So we put down our coefficients would be a 2, a 3, ooh, a -3. Don't make mistakes with signs. You'll get the whole thing wrong if you make mistakes with signs. So we have the 2, the -3, the -18, and the 8. Now, the important thing with synthetic division, which ends up being really important, is the following. If you look at a problem like 16, we skip. There's no x squared. And whenever you skip something in synthetic division, you have to put a 0 in for it, okay? So for a problem like 16, right, it's still 4. So if I come over here and if I was to do 16, it's still 4. But when I write out the coefficients, right, it's a 1. And then I skip. And since I skip, I have to put a 0 in for that x squared, okay? And that's huge for synthetic division. You got to do that, all right? But let's go back to the problem we were doing, which was this one. I better get the same answer, right, when we did the long division. And synthetic means you just drop 2. And then you multiply. 2 times 4 is 8. And then you drop. And when you drop, when I have two things, you just combine. -3 and a +8 gives me a +5. And then after you have your answer, you multiply. 5 times 4 is 20. Okay? And then you combine, which would be a 2. And then you do 2 times 4 is 8. Oh, I got a remainder of 0. Isn't that what I got last time? So the toughest thing about synthetic division is how you write your final answer. Okay, this last guy is always your remainder. Ooh, my pen ran out. How about it? The last guy is always your remainder. So that's my remainder. I'm going to use my finger. Okay, remainder. This guy is going, the 2 is going to have no x. The 5 is going to have an x. And the next guy is going to be x squared. So it just keeps on going up. If I had another number, x to the 3rd. If I had another one, x to the 4th. So then I write my final answer, right? It's 2x squared. Okay, let's see how the finger does. Plus 5x plus 2. And if you had a remainder, this one it's 0. So remember, when it's 0, you don't have to. But if I did, I would put a 0. And then what I was dividing by, x minus 4. You're just saying you can't do it anymore. That's my answer. If you have a remainder other than 0, then you include that. When it's 0, you don't need it. And how sweet is that? That's the same answer I got when I did long division, but that was way faster. But once again, can only use synthetic when you're dividing by something that is, ooh, that's linear. Okay? If not, you always have to do long division. So make sure long division is always good to go. That's the dude that always works. Aloha. Math excellent!